Hello and welcome back to what may well be the last in our summer series of Bible studies looking at the book of Exodus. For now, we'll see where we want to go in September. But for now, we are finishing off our journey through Exodus, and we're at chapter 18, in which Moses has led the Israelites across the Red Sea, dealt with their complaining and quarrelling, tried to reaffirm for them the relationships which demonstrate how much God loves them, trusts them, cares for them, and will not abuse them. Yet we see how he's had to deal with their challenges. After challenge, then, importantly, Moses returns to the roots of his calling and the roots of his understanding of his leadership. And his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, comes to greet him. And we have what, for me, particularly as a church leader, is really quite a wonderful and beautiful encounter with somebody who we can see sees straight into Moses' heart, sees all that he has done, and all that God is doing through him, and has concern only for his welfare, for his well-being, and for the desire to see Moses take joy in his leadership. And so there's a wonderful moment in 18:7 when they first meet each other. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed down, kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. It's a greeting, it's a kiss, it's an acknowledgement of their shared experience, and they ask after each other's welfare. Now, that could be a very British sort of, oh, hi, how you doing? But I think it's a little bit more than that. Actually, they're setting up that is what their encounter is about. It's about recognising how the leadership and authority which Moses has been demonstrating, how his experience before Pharaoh and in the wilderness has contributed or not to his own welfare. And what a question that is to ask one another. And I see it time and time again, how significant it is when we do stop to ask each other how we're doing, in a deeper sense than just a pleasantry. But actually, how are you doing? How is your welfare? How is your mental, physical, emotional, social, spiritual health? And in recognising that and its importance, we're saying that our experience in the church and in the world should be to build up our welfare. We said that last time when we said that God wants the Israelites' experience to be for healing, i.e. to be for their welfare, for their well-being. And just to have Jethro checking in on Moses that is how it's going is so wonderful. And indeed, 18:9, Jethro rejoiced in all the good that the Lord has done to Israel in delivering them from the Egyptians. So actually that checking in with Moses, so that Moses can share all the wonderful things that God has done for them, has been a blessing and has been for a joy for Jethro as well. And again, in the church, that should be something that we're striving for, to find joy in others' experience. And that includes in acknowledging the challenge. Presumably, Moses has also told Jethro all about the quarrelling, all about the complaining, all about the dangers and threats that they faced. But actually, in seeing the wonders that God has done for them, both Moses and Jethro take great joy in that. And that's the process of what we call spiritual direction sometimes, is just speaking to somebody else who can help us find the joy in what might otherwise be challenging situations. And we need others who can do that for and with us, because sometimes we can get bogged down with the challenges and the threats and the dangers. What I didn't say last time, when I said that incident at Meribah was going to be critical for Moses and be the reason that he doesn't enter the promised land, I don't know that Moses knows that yet. And that's not a problem. That's not a concern, because Moses, when he realizes he's not going to enter the promised land, doesn't see that as a punishment, but sees it as the right and the good fulfillment of his leadership and his ministry. So he doesn't have that in mind yet. He can see that as a great joy at this time. He can see how he handled that, and how he was able to provide water for the Israelites as a thing of joy, which he should. And the fact that God then helps him reinterpret it later in terms of the limits, good limits, appropriate limits of his leadership, doesn't change the fact that he can find joy with Jethro in that now. 18:10, Jethro says, "Blessed be the Lord." Jethro's response is one of these prayers that we've talked about before, that we've seen in the letters to the Ephesians. Barakah, blessed be the Lord. That is how Jethro responds to Moses' story, by sharing in his joy and by acknowledging their shared experience of God. Moses has done something wonderful, and Jethro says, "Blessed be the Lord our God." So those Barakah prayers, they're about that sort of triangulation of recognising our earthly relationships, recognising our godly relationships, and recognising how we can find joy in bringing those together. 18:13, Jethro also, therefore, in having shared Moses' story and seen the joy in it, he can also see where Moses might just need some encouragement and some challenge to ensure that joy will be found in the future as well. So Jethro notices his loneliness. He notices that Moses is pouring himself out for the people, and what's that doing to him? The people are coming to Moses in order to inquire of God what they should do, in order to see God, in order to triangulate for themselves that God's presence in their lives, which is great for the people, but what is that doing for Moses? Jethro can see there's a danger of burnout, there's a danger of abuse, self-neglect, and therefore of harming others. And Jethro takes that up with Moses, not in order to condemn him, not in order to tell him off, but in order to ensure that Moses' leadership continues to flourish, for Moses' own welfare, for Moses' own good, and for the good of the people whom he is leading. And Moses takes his comments on board, adjusts his working patterns, and continues to lead the people. And then, at the end of chapter 18:27, he lets his father-in-law depart. Where have we heard that phrase from before? Pharaoh refuses to let his people go. Moses lets Jethro go. He could have held on to Jethro. He could have said, "No, actually, Jethro, you've had power over me, and I don't know what you're going to do with that once you leave my presence." That's what Pharaoh may have said. That's what Pharaoh said before. Moses doesn't. He allows Jethro to leave, and he goes off to his own country. How wonderful to be able to experience that, the joy, the challenge, the flourishing of his ministry through the ministry of Jethro, and then to be able to say to Jethro, now you've done your bit, go on your way, go and bless somebody else. Moses and the people journey on, and with a renewed understanding, I think, of the wonders that God has done in their lives. So that's repeated 19:3 and on. And thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, all the Israelites, you've seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, see all that I'm going to do for you again. And to summarise their experience like that, to say I bore you up on eagle's wings, is certainly one perspective on what's happened. We've just read the rest of the book of Exodus. We've seen how the people were abused. We've seen how the people were challenged. We've seen how the people experienced the plagues, the Passover, the crossing into the Red Sea. To be able to look back and say, God bore you up on eagle's wings, I think that's Jethro's insight, living with Moses. Not to ignore the bad stuff that's happened, but to be able to look back with hindsight and say, yes, God was acting through this in love and in trusting power. And indeed, that will mean that the people are called, 19:6, a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. Why? Because that means something about the way God possesses, holds them. You shall be a treasured possession of mine. It's something about the distinction which God affords to them. It's something about the obligations that they will have to keep those laws and customs that God has given them, including the Sabbath, which has already been established, including some of those commandments which are going to be revealed to the people shortly. But I think it's also a recognition, the priestly calling, the calling to holiness, in my mind, which is for some of us, me included, as a priest of the church, but is for the whole church as a priestly people, is that discernment, is being able to see in the work of God the joy, is being able to say God bears us up on eagle's wings, is being able to encourage others to see that as well, and is to be able to hold those desires to see the kingdom of God revealed in a trusting, in a loving, in a non-abusive way, with ourselves, with God, and with others. Through the ministry of Jesus Christ and through our participation in his body, the church, we're all able to share in that priestly calling. But for the people of the book of Exodus, that has particular meaning in terms of consecrating themselves, setting themselves aside for the work that God calls them to. I like the fact that 19:13 that involves things like the trumpet blast, that sound, that noise, being a recognition of the presence of God, a presence which they shouldn't fear, but should be able to embrace trustfully. But those commandments, those concerns, those customs are about safeguarding the ways in which they experience that holiness. So when we're talking about the Ten Commandments, which will be revealed to God through God to Moses in a moment, those commandments are about protecting that holiness, which is a gift from God. It's also about descent and ascent. So God comes down upon the mountain to meet Moses. Moses goes up, and so this experience of the life of the church is about our ascension, and we know in the life and liturgy of the church we use that word as well, about Christ's movement back to his Father, in which we all share. But I say that knowing that we mustn't idolize or use these commandments in the wrong way. So the commandments have always had a central role in the life of the church. They're there in the Book of Common Prayer at the start of the communion service, and are recited with a response which allows us to invite through the will and desire of God ourselves to respond to those commandments appropriately. They were often written up and placed at the east end of the church, where people would see them and focus on them throughout their prayer and worship. But we mustn't idolize them, as indeed the people of Israel do, causing Moses to smash them and to have to return to get another set of tablets. What I mean by that is, in other religions and religious contexts, particularly, for example, Islam, there's a sense in which the customs and laws that we follow might earn us brownie points, for want of a better word, earn us those marks of holiness. That's not what's going on here. It's the other way round. In Christian teaching, these commandments, these customs, this way in which we move towards God, safeguard and boundary the relationships that we have on earth and with God in a healthy and way that's going to contribute to our flourishing and our well-being. I use that word safeguarding, knowing that it has a particular use in modern legal and social contexts. That is what safeguarding is about. It's about protecting our relationships so they're not abusive, so that they contribute to the life of holiness, which should be a marker of the church. So those 10 commandments are about honouring God. They are about protecting the Sabbath. They're about honouring father and mother, and they're about not damaging our relationships through things like murder, adultery, theft, false witness, coveting. They're about protecting, safeguarding our relationships in order to reveal those marks of holiness, which should be that distinctive priestly character of the church. What the 10 Commandments and other things shouldn't do is instill fear, but that is exactly how the people see them. So 20:20, Moses says to the people, do not be afraid. What God is doing for you in giving you these commandments is allowing you the boundaries and structures which as human beings we need to ensure we don't fall into sin, we don't fall into abuse, but that we continue to strive for righteousness, peace, justice and holiness. So thank you for staying with me for 3 months in the book of Exodus. I hope you can see how I feel that the book of Exodus helps us to understand some of these issues which are so important for the church and the world at the moment. Issues of power and authority, issues of freedom and choice, issues of abuse and safeguarding, which we are discussing quite a lot at the moment because we need to, because they're foundational for our calling as a Christian people, called to be holy and called to ensure that the safeguards are in place so that we continue to ascend towards holiness. But how wonderful it would be if that recognition of joy, that knowledge that God bears us up on eagle's wings, might be our desire for the church and for all those in the world who might come to know the ministry of the church. So that should be our prayer, that should be our desire, that should be our joy as a church, as a people of God, knowing that takes hard work, knowing that takes safeguards, knowing that takes prayer and dedication, but knowing too that it means that holiness to which we are called is revealed in our lives individually and together. So please do let me know how you found this study in Exodus. Let me know how you might want to move on next time. We don't quite know what we're going to do for September yet. We might look at something else in the Bible, or we might stick with Exodus. There's plenty more stories that we could look at and that would help us understand God's relationship with us and revelation to us. But do let me know how you feel about that. And as we've seen already, do comment and question things that you've picked up in these first 20 chapters of the book of Exodus. Thank you, and may it be a blessing to you as you strive to reveal the holiness to which you are called through the grace of God in your own lives and the lives of those whom you meet.